My name is Mike Johnson, and I'm 28 years old, living in Chicago. Never thought my life would turn into such a damn mess, but I guess that's what happens when you make poor choices out of fear of losing someone. It all started about 6 months ago when my girlfriend Emily came home from work one day acting different, quieter than usual, seemed to have something heavy on her mind. We'd been together for 6 years at that point, dating since our junior year of college. I figured whatever was bothering her, she'd open up about it when she was ready. A few days passed, and the tension was unbearable. Emily and I were like an old married couple, able to read every subtle change in the other's mood and behavior. She was clearly struggling with some inner turmoil. Finally, one night after dinner, she dropped a bombshell. "Mike, I think we should open up our relationship." My fork froze midway to my mouth as I replayed those words in my head. Open up our relationship. Like, see other people. Have we not been happy? Emily must have seen the mix of confusion and worry washing over my face. She quickly explained that she still loved me deeply, but couldn't help feeling like we were stuck in a rut. The thrilling spark from when we first met had fizzled out into the numbing routines of job, bills, cleaning the apartment. She wanted to experience other romantic connections, embrace her sexuality, and basically find herself again. I'll admit, a huge part of me was against the idea. I'm a pretty traditional guy, raised to believe you give your all to one committed partnership. Opening myself up to see other women felt dishonest, like I'd be betraying the values my parents instilled in me. But Emily was the love of my life. We'd built so much together already: careers, home, even started discussing having kids in the next few years. Could I really throw all that away over my pride and stubbornness? She claimed opening up was the only way to breathe fresh life into our stagnant relationship. So against my better judgment, I agreed to try this open thing for her. I think part of me also felt a twisted sense of confidence that Emily would realize the grass wasn't greener on the other side, that she'd eventually come crawling back to me as her one and only. God, I couldn't have been more naive and unprepared for where that decision would lead us both. In a few short months, the remaining shreds of trust and intimacy holding our relationship together would unravel beyond repair. The first twinges of doubt came about a month into our agreed openness. I was at a sports bar downtown watching the Bulls game with a couple buddies from work, just trying to enjoy some brews and guy time. You know, my phone kept buzzing with texts from Emily, which was pretty typical for her. Who you with? What are you up to? The usual check-ins. I shot her a quick reply saying I was out with Steve and Marcus watching the game. Didn't think much of it. A little while later, my phone rings. It's Emily. I slip out of the bar to take the call. "Hey babe, what's up?" I said. There was an odd tremor in Emily's voice. "Mike, I need to tell you something." My heart sank a bit at her serious tone. "'Kay, shoot." I've been seeing someone. From work. It was like the ground disappeared from underneath me. Emily had taken our open relationship to heart and wasted no time exploring her options. Part of me knew this was a possibility, but I figured she'd at least ease into it gradually. "You've been intimate with someone already?" I sputtered out. "Yes," Emily replied shakily. "His name is Jake Sullivan. We've hooked up a few times now." My jaw tightened as I processed this revelation about my girlfriend of 6 years. She was sleeping around with some random dude behind my back. No, worse, right under my nose at her office. I wanted you to hear it from me," Emily went on. "I didn't mean to keep it from you. I know we're supposed to be open and honest. Are you kidding me right now? I cut her off, trying to keep my voice down. We agreed to this ridiculous arrangement so you could find yourself or whatever, not so you could develop whole other relationships. There was a pause before Emily responded in a small voice. I'm sorry you're hurting, Mike. That wasn't my intent at all. But I had heard enough. Ended the call and stormed back into the bar. Toxic blend of anger, sadness, and emasculation swirling inside me. Steve and Marcus could see from the look on my face that something was very wrong. You okay, man? Marcus asked with clear concern. Just shook my head, jaw clenched tightly, and signaled for another beer. How the hell was I supposed to process this? I tried to process the bombshell Emily dropped about her office fling named Jake, but it was almost impossible. Sure, I had technically agreed to this open relationship nonsense, but I never expected her to go full throttle so quickly. Part of me wanted to storm over to her place and confront her, demand she end things with Jake immediately. The more rational side knew that would only lead to a heated argument where no one wins. I figured it was best to take a little time, gather my thoughts, and decide how to proceed. A few days passed in tense silence between us. Emily seemed to sense I needed space, though I could tell she was anxious about my reaction every time my name flashed on her phone. I appreciated her giving me that breathing room to get my emotions in check. The more I replayed her confession over in my mind, the more pissed I became. She told me herself that one of her big hesitations about opening our relationship was the fear of me getting seriously involved with another woman. Yet here she was, blatantly developing feelings for this random Jake dude. I'm not gonna lie, a tiny voice in the back of my mind kept whispering toxic thoughts. Things like, is he better than you in bed? And maybe she's finally realized how lucky she is to be with you. Ugly stuff that I knew stemmed from my own insecurities over the situation. Finally, after stewing in silence for what felt like forever, Emily came over one evening after work. I could see the hopefulness, but also apprehension in her eyes as I let her inside. Hey, she started softly, wringing her hands. I simply gave a small nod, letting her continue. Emily took a deep breath. I want you to know I've ended things with Jake. It was a mistake, just me being selfish and stupid. You're the only guy I want, Mike. I felt myself relax slightly at her words, but maintained my firmness. You weren't just hooking up with this dude, Em. You had real feelings for him. A pained look crossed her face as she reluctantly admitted, yes, did develop feelings, but not anything like what we have, not anything that could replace you. Yet you agreed to this open thing so you could screw around with no consequences. I pointed out bluntly, well, surprise, there are consequences. You've put our whole relationship in jeopardy. Emily's eyes welled up. You're right, I didn't think through what I was asking for. I'm so sorry, Mike. Please, let's just go back to being monogamous. You and me, that's all I need. I sighed deeply, running a hand through my hair. As much as her betrayal stung, she was still the love of my life. Maybe this wake-up call was exactly what we needed to course correct. Okay, we'll revisit being exclusive, close this open relationship chapter. I agreed. But no more second chances after this, all right? If either of us develops feelings for someone else, we walk away. For good. Emily nodded vigorously, a look of relief spreading across her face. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. I won't screw this up again, I swear. She pulled me into a tight hug, and I truly wanted to believe her words. But in that moment, part of me knew. Our relationship had been irrevocably altered. The dam had cracked, and there was no way to undo it. Even after Emily and I agreed to shut down our open relationship experiment, the emotional fallout lingered like a bad odor. Sure, on the surface we went through the motions, date nights, making love, rehashing plans for our future together. But an underlying tension had seeped in. I wanted to let go of the jealousy and hurt over her fling with Jake, truly forgive and move forward. Most days I believed we could get back to where we were. Other times, flashes of anger and suspicion would creep in, like when I'd catch Emily smiling at a text and my mind would instantly jump to, who is she talking to now? It was an ugly, vicious cycle of highs and lows. I began withdrawing emotionally to avoid setting off one of her crying bouts about how distant I'd become. The whole situation put a strain on other areas of my life too. My work performance slipped as I constantly got lost in thought, making stupid mistakes on coding projects I could normally do in my sleep. My boss and friends noticed the change in my mood and demeanor. A usually happy-go-lucky guy had morphed into someone sullen and withdrawn. Emily and I even stopped making appearances at the typical family events and hangouts we used to look forward to. I lied to everyone, putting on a fake smile and saying, "Oh, work has just been crazy busy lately." What was I supposed to say? That the woman I've been with for over half a decade emasculated me to the point of no return? That just the sight of her sweet face made me recede into an insecure shadow of myself? Late one evening, after another long day avoiding Emily and anyone else really, I was mindlessly scrolling Reddit when a sudden realization hit me. This girl's betrayal aside, the core issue went much deeper. I had never really prioritized my own wants and needs. All throughout our relationship, I was the quintessential people pleaser, molding my life around Emily's visions and ambitions. Even agreeing to that ludicrous open relationship scheme stemmed from the same fear of losing her if I didn't say yes to her latest passion project. But at what point do you draw the line between compromise and self-abandonment? Our therapist liked to say all relationships involve sacrifice, but never at the expense of who you are. Well, somewhere along the way, I had lost the very essence of who Mike Johnson was as an individual. Right then and there, something inside me clicked into place. I didn't text or call Emily back that night. For once, I was going to prioritize my own happiness over anyone else's, starting now. I wish I could say my newfound determination to put myself first after Emily's betrayal led to an empowering redemption arc. That I immediately cut ties, started fresh, and reclaimed my self-worth as an individual. But life doesn't work out quite so neatly, does it? More often than not, there are messy hurdles and setbacks along the way before you find that clarity. My journey was no different. A few days passed after my little epiphany about prioritizing my own needs. I figured I'd hash things out with Emily soon enough. Lay everything on the table and let the chips fall where they may regarding our future. Decided to bite the bullet and finally catch up with some friends who I'd been ghosting for weeks. Penelope, one of my buddies from college, had been desperately trying to get me out of the apartment. She invited me to this chill rooftop bar downtown she was obsessed with. I have to admit, getting out and experiencing a fun night on the town was restorative in ways I didn't fully anticipate. Penelope and I chatted, joked around, and people watched over cold beers like we did in our undergrad days. For a few precious hours, I was able to stop obsessively replaying Emily's transgressions in my mind. This was exactly what I needed. I told Penelope as we were getting ready to head out. A little taste of the old Mike. She gave me a sad smile. "I've been worried about you, dude. Radio silence like that isn't normal for my guy." Tensed up slightly, not really wanting to unpack the whole sordid situation with Emily right then. "Yeah, well, Emily and I hit a pretty rough patch. We're trying to work through it. The words felt hollow as soon as they left my lips. Were we actually still working to repair our relationship? Or was I just deluding myself at this point? Penelope picked up on my hesitance. Hey, you know I'm here if you ever need to talk, right? No judgments. I managed a tight smile. I know, I appreciate that. And who knows, maybe soon I'll have you all over for beers to celebrate me living the bachelor life again. That was meant as a half-joking remark, but it landed like a lead balloon. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us. Eventually, Penelope spoke up again. Well, whatever happens, just don't shut your friends out again, okay? We've got your back, Mike. Pulled her in for a platonic hug, soaking in the feeling of having a true ride or die in my corner. It helped solidify my determination. I couldn't remain trapped in this emotional limbo with Emily any longer. Whatever came next, at least I'd have my people. The next afternoon, I headed over to Emily's apartment, feeling unexpectedly calm yet resolute. I didn't have a plan beyond opening up an honest dialogue. Part of me figured she probably already sensed where my headspace was at. Emily opened the door with a mix of surprise and apprehension, like she'd been bracing herself for this conversation. Hey, she started softly. Is everything okay? I shook my head. Not really, no. Can I come in? We need to talk. Her eyes widened slightly as she stepped aside to allow me entry. Emily knew the jig was up. We took our usual spots on her couch, an awkward tension hanging in the air. Figured I might as well rip off the Band-Aid. I can't do this anymore, I stated simply, not really knowing where my words would lead yet. This whole situation, the lingering doubts and anxiety, it's eating me alive. I don't think our relationship can survive what happened. Tears immediately welled up in Emily's eyes, but she didn't interrupt. Deep down, she knew this was coming. I've spent the past few weeks doing a lot of self-reflection. I went on, and I realized that throughout our whole relationship, I've been a bystander to my own life. I've just gone along with whatever you wanted because I was terrified of losing you. Mike, that's not true at all. Emily interjected, her voice wobbling. You're the one who never wanted to take any risks or make any changes. I shook my head adamantly. That's because I didn't agree with the risks you wanted to take. Getting my sex kick elsewhere and keeping my options open was never my vision for an ideal relationship. So what? You're just done. Over 6 years down the drain. Emily retorted, her voice escalating as she grew more defensive. You're gonna throw everything away over one mistake. You didn't make one mistake, Em. I stated flatly. You willingly and repeatedly violated the boundaries of what I was comfortable with. And when I finally worked up the courage to establish firm boundaries, you trampled all over those too. The hard truth seemed to finally sink in for Emily as her tense body deflated in resignation. We both knew there was no walking this back or making any more empty promises. With tears streaming down her face, she whispered, I'm so sorry, Mike. You didn't deserve any of this. I got so lost in my own head. Pulled her in for an embrace, allowing us both to purge all the built-up anguish and grief as we prepared to go our separate ways. No anger or resentment, just acceptance. This certainly wasn't the storybook ending I'd once envisioned, but after suffering so much pain and turmoil, I felt free to figure out who the hell I was after subsuming my entire identity for someone else's vision. As devastating as it was to unravel my life with Emily, I'd gotten the wake-up call I desperately needed. Never again would I abandon myself for the sake of a relationship. My self-worth and boundaries were non-negotiable from this point forward. Picking up the pieces after my breakup with Emily was a slow, arduous process. Not just on an emotional level, but a practical one too. We'd been intertwined for so damn long that separating our lives felt like surgically uncoupling conjoined twins. Who keeps the couch? What happens to our combined finances and investments? Do I take her cousin off my hospital visitation list? Seemingly mundane crap that suddenly carried so much weight. But you know what? Grinding through all those headache-inducing logistics was strangely therapeutic for me. With each joint account closed and designated item claimed, I could feel myself closing the chapter on my old life and relationship a little more definitively. Within a couple months, Emily and I existed in two fully separate spheres for the first time since college. No more material tethers binding us together. It was scary yet exhilarating to have that blank slate lying ahead. Of course, there were still the occasional pangs of sadness and nostalgic reveries about happier times. Certain songs or random smells would bring me back to warm memories of road tripping through the Southwest or cozying up on our parents' porch. I didn't fight those feelings when they surfaced. Wallowing in denial never did anyone any good. Instead, I tried to honor Emily's memory with gratitude for the role she played in my life, while simultaneously embracing the opportunity for personal growth and rediscovery. Cheesy as it sounds, I was fundamentally a different person now. The Mike of old would have been content to sleepwalk through life, cruising on autopilot, while his goals and identity got slowly subsumed by his partner's ambitions. But this newer, wiser version recognized how incredibly unhealthy that mindset was. So I started making more of an effort to surround myself with friends, rekindle old hobbies, and nurture interests I'd neglected for far too long. Slowly but surely, my sense of self started taking shape again. Did I still get lonely some nights? Of course, I'm only human. But I'd developed a much deeper appreciation for my autonomy and independence. The relationships I pursued moving forward would be built on mutual understanding and respect, not shackling myself to someone else's chaotic vision. About 6 months out from my split with Emily, I remember having this crazy realization. I felt happy, lighter and more comfortable in my own skin than I had in a long, long time. Sure, there were bound to be more growing pains and challenges on the horizon. But thanks to my perspective-shifting experience, I felt truly equipped to handle them while staying grounded in my identity. If there's one piece of wisdom I could bestow, it's this: never abandon the core of who you are for anyone else's sake. You are your longest-lasting relationship, the part that endures long after romantic entanglements end. So treat yourself with the utmost care and respect. It's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. But now that the scales have fallen from my eyes, you can bet your ass I'll never dim my light for someone else again. So what did you think of my story of self-rediscovery and the universal struggle to maintain authenticity in relationships? Did any part of my emotional journey resonate with you on a deeper level? What lessons did you take away regarding individuality and boundaries? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, do me a favor, click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.